Hello guys, and welcome to another video from Igne. It was requested of me to go into insect talent trees and what I would suggest personally for what to focus on in each individual tree. Now these are based on my opinion and my experience and what I personally would do. They're completely open for discussion and debate. And if you'd like to do so, you're welcome to join either in the comments below or in the description of this video. There will be a YouTube link to be able to, or a Discord link to be able to join our YouTube channel discussion there. In that room, there is absolutely no bullying, no harassing, nothing racial, nothing, or else you'll be kicked and banned from the room permanently. Again, I'm still sick, so I'm sorry if I cough. I'm sorry if my voice is a little bit different, but still trying to put out content for you guys. So with that, we'll get right into it. Now, when you go through the insect talents, a lot of them are actually the same. So like for your emperor scorpion, your whip scorpion, your regular scorpion, the talent tree themselves are actually the same. The weird thing is, though, that the wasp is also the same skill tree as the scorpions, even though it's universal. Whereas the rest of the universals, from your crab to your beetle, etc., those are all the same tree. So it's interesting to note that the wasp is different. That's the same thing with the shooter insects between the mantis and the devil flower. So when we go into those, I won't show individually because they are the same. However, with the wasp, that one, with it being a little bit different, that's going to be a little bit more up for discussion. And then the one insect that has a completely different tree than any other insect is the Godzilla, and we'll go into that specifically. So when you're looking at your insects, you're wanting to focus on what its specialty is. Some of them have special talents, like the Godzilla, for instance, has the heat ray, the whip, and the emperor scorpion have their own poison effect, etc., etc. That one has control resistance. So you want to keep that in mind whenever you're doing your tree. However, with a lot of these insects, you can actually follow pretty much the same tree anyway to be able to get the same results. So we'll get right into the shooters first. So we'll go ahead, and I think my game just crashed. Alright, well, after a lovely demonstration of the stability of this game from the devs, let's get right into the shooters first. So, for shooters, again, I've been over this before, they are class cannon, so you're really wanting to focus more on their attack, health, control resistance, that sort of thing. Anything to be able to make them pack the biggest punch first and be able to keep on going. Now, again, it can get a little confusing for the shooters because you have attack. So immediately you would be like, okay, well, that's where I need to focus because it says attack. But that's not the case for the shooters. The blue, in most cases, besides with another that we're going to be getting into, usually is more defense than it is actual attack. Even though, obviously, it does say, the thrill of the hunt, all our squads deal 2.5 more damage when the enemy squad to the enemy squad that has less than 50% power. But if you think about it in the gist of it, when you're actually hitting somebody or hitting another march, you're typically cutting that out before it really gets to that point. So usually when they're already down that far, you're already going to win the fight. So it's kind of a useless talent. It's the same normal attack crit rate of all of our squads, plus 3%. And when any one of our squad defeats an enemy squad, increases damage by 2%. So all of those are really, the fight's already done by that point when that comes up. And you can keep going through with the rest of them. There's a lot of defense. There's some health, shit like that. But really, that's not where you want to be using your talents on this. For the Devil Flower, the Mantis, shit like that, you want to be going into this shooter tree. Because it has a lot more of the attack, has some march speed, has some combat speed somewhere around here. Yeah, combat speed. But each one of these that are the bigger nodes start giving you a lot more. So that's what you want to start looking at. More health, control resistance, there's more attack. And then you have like this, which is really helpful with like the Devil Flower, which gives splash damage, and the Mantis and shooters in general, which are meant to be glass cannon. Your skill damage is based off of your normal attack damage range. So when you're releasing normal attacks, it has a chance to increase attack by 5% for 2 rounds. It obviously goes up with each one of the point. When there are only shooters in 3 squads, which you usually do, after all the squads release normal attacks, has a 10% chance to deal damage. A 10% chance to deal 10% damage to the target squad, which goes up by 10. When the battle starts, reduce the attack and skill attack of the enemy squads by 2.5% until the end of the battle. So that's where you're looking at as far as with shooters and what you're really going to be wanting to focus on, in my opinion. So for shooters like the Devil Flower, the Mantis, you'll want to go ahead and stick with red. So for Guardians, we'll go into that. For Guardians, it's a lot of the same way. It's even though the Guardians they're typically defense, and so you would think that you would want to focus on defense. So blue. In this case, not so much. And you can go through, and I'm not going to read all these out because that would take too much time. There's a lot of healing. When the power squad's less than 50%, like it then starts doing it. So it's not really skills that are actually helping what you're trying to do. But as you go in through with the Guardian line, you got your defense, control resistance, health, restraint. There's more combat speed down here, damage. Then these 2 or 3. So there's a healing one there, which stacks up with this one. When any Guardian squad is healed, has 50% a chance to increase the attack by 5%, and the effect is stackable. That's pretty powerful when you start putting in, like Parada, the other pay-to-win Guardian insect or ant that I can't pronounce. When you start stacking those in there, that's a pretty powerful little statement, because I mean, even if you're barely scratched and your attack's increasing by that much just because you're healed in that round, that's pretty insane. So, and then I know I haven't really gone into the basic tree, but to be honest, with the basic tree, I don't go very far into it at all. In fact, I'll go and show you, I'll show that when I get into the crab, because I don't want to spoil that yet. But the basic tree really shouldn't go too far into it, if at all. For shooters, you can a little bit just because of the attack that you can get real quick for, a couple cheap points. But for the most part, you want to stick to the red or red tree, or with this next one I'm about to discuss, there's discussion be that you can actually go into the blue tree. So with that, we'll actually get right into that. So for your scorpions, Emperor Scorpion, all those, that's where I personally can see an argument for going into the blue or the red tree. For me, I would say it's probably more along the lines of if you are focused PvP versus PvE, because the like for instance the skill side has a lot of PvP factors to it, as far as damage release, being able to increase the damage anytime that there's a skill attack. It has a chance to be able to increase it by 2.5%. That of course goes up. I think it's like a max of 15 or something like that. So this is where I kind of want to get you guys to sit in the comments below or in the Discord and get some communication up on this, because on the other side, underneath the carrier tree, there's some great ones, especially like this one. When you have a poison effect, that it increases the damage of that, decreasing the damage taken, adding dodge. I mean, there's a lot of good things on both sides of the tree. So for this one, if for carriers, I would almost suggest trying to do a balance. But again, I mean, eventually you'd have to actually push one of the trees all the way to the max to be able to get the benefits of it. But I would say as a basic free-to-play player that's not heavily spending on your upgrade towns and such, I would probably just stick to the red tree. But for those that are heavily spending into their insects and such, there's an argument to be made of going into both of the trees. That would be my take. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. Now, we'll get into the oddballs. So as you can see on this carrier one, oh no, actually we're not getting into the oddballs yet. We still got universals. So for universals, like the Atlas beetle, the crab, etc., they have the same thing where it's red. I personally would suggest going into that, because usually when you have a universal, you're running like a mixed march, or you could be running shooter still with it, because some of them are great. I used the crab for a long time, and this is where I was talking about going into the basic. I went in just a little bit to this defense, the 18%, because at the time I was running guarding shooter, and having that extra defense was helping, plus having the extra attack. There's a few points, and honestly I just never got around to really switching it out again. But it's the same thing with the universals. You want to go into a lot of the red, because you get all the attack and everything like that. Now the one bad thing about the universals, let me check to make sure I'm not fibbing on this. Yeah, the universals don't have the combat speed that the other ones, like the mantis and such, give you. So that part, I mean, it is rather far down, but that part kind of sucks as far as that. But for the universals, I would focus red. Now there's going to be an oddball on that, because if you look at what the scorpions are, where they have the skill basic and carrier, the wasp has the skill versatile and basic. So it's basically mixing a universal with the carrier. So if you're using carriers with it, the same argument could be made of maybe dipping into some of the blue for it. But especially if you're running a mixed march at all with it, I would definitely suggest sticking to the red. Now we're getting into the final one, which is the Godzilla. The Godzilla has its own tree that no other insect in the game has, and we'll get into that. So it has this monster. Now I personally as you can see, have gone through and pretty much have filled it out. I'm not really too worried about the defense or anything like that, but I might push over for this counter. Now this one has some pretty insane ones for shooter. Like, for instance, this one, which I maxed out after in battle, converts 20% of health of all of our shooter and squads into attack. That's could be good and could be dangerous, but it's basically taking shooters back to their true form of being glass cannon. That means it's a one hit, or you ain't gonna make it. So I like that. Some of the other skills: normal attack, critical damage of all our shooter squads. Third round removes all control status of our shooter and squads. Increase the attack and defense of our squads by 2.5% for every 10% of our squad's health loss lasting until the end of the battle. Now that's pretty huge as well, because that means that poison, disarm, disable, any of those by the third round, they no longer have them. So that's a pretty big skill to have, and that's actually the one I'm going to be, of course, maxing next. And then during the battle, the defense of our shooter and squad in the front line plus 2.5, crit resistance 2.0. The crit resistance is a lot better than the defense, in my opinion, so that one I'm not really too worried about. But the Godzilla has this tree, and it's completely unique to any other. So I would definitely suggest focusing on this one first. And if you look, it's actually not all that many talent points. I mean, I have mine, 30, 34, and have most of it done already. So after that, you can certainly go down the normal shooter line and be able to go through that. Well, which makes me raise the question if in the future they're going to diversify the insects a lot further, so that each insect has its own unique skill tree, which I think they should, because that gives a whole new aspect to battles as far as counters and everything else. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And if you have any questions, comments, want to discuss, please say something down in the comments below, or you can join into our Discord and we can talk there. We'd love to have you. And until next time, Igneo.